Hey Derek, this is Brandon. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Is now a good time for you?
Sure.
Okay. Just wanted to check in with you and see how I can help you out.
Yeah, so um, as mentioned, exploring selling that property.
Okay.
Uh, got the tenant in it now on a month to month. Saw that my neighbor, Colette Simpson,
Right.
uh, you guys took care of her home
Yes.
and wanted to just find out a little bit about you guys, what you guys charge for that. In addition to that property, I don't know if you've dealt with other of the condos in that area.
Yeah. So it's there are some challenges with the particular complex right now, especially being on the third level there. But we were able to make it work, and right now. All the other properties that are in that complex are currently pending or sold, so there are no other ones that are available, which is always good with the low interest rates right now. So, there is a good thing in terms of timing for that. But did you know Colette? Were you friends with her, or do you
Yep.
remember? Okay. Yeah, and if you
Yeah, we
get it,
bought the homes together
oh,
from phase one and lived there together for next door to each other for 6 or 7 years.
okay. And what took you out to? Did you say Sacramento?
Yeah, I started a job that brought me out this way.
Okay. Sounds good. So you're just looking at potentially selling right now, or at least the option of it. If you weren't, would you just renew the lease with the current tenants, or what's your backup plan if you don't get the number that you're looking for?
Yeah, if they continue on month to month, I'm fine with that. If anything changes, I would look for a new tenant.
Okay. Have you spoken to them about it yet?
No.
Okay. And do you have a property manager, or do you deal with them directly?
Yeah, I have property management.
Okay. And are you on pretty good terms with them in terms of just, do you communicate with them, or does everything go through the property management?
It's through the property management.
Okay. All right. So, and which company are you using for the property management?
Give me a minute and it'll come to me.
It's when I pulled up the just the MLS history, I saw the last person who it looks like helped list it was Tracy Guillen. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I can't remember. Sorry, I just got off of a boat all day.
That's okay. Esquire, I think it is.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't know if you had ended up staying with her or not. Sometimes people will hire them just to help place, but it sounds like they were actually servicing it as well. So any issues they dealt with directly.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's good to know just in terms of on the lease side. So just a few things to know. So typically, if the tenants have been there for more than a year, the general, if it's a year and a day, you're supposed to give them 60 days notice, which could be a challenge as well, especially with the timing of the market right now. Actually, Colette is a teacher, and she purchased another property in Newberry Park, and it was just big for her to find something sooner than later because of the next school year starting. And we're actually in escrow with a few buyers that are teachers right now in the same boat. And the reason why I share that just in terms of timing, as it starts getting into the September, October, November months, the teachers they're out there very aggressive right now, and they're trying to find something pretty quickly. So it's just part of the market, and it's going to be at least what we found out with selling Colette's property. It's got to be a particular type of buyer that is okay with the 3 flights without an elevator. So kind of eliminates anybody who's a little bit older. So we had a few military guys that were interested. That's actually a VA buyers who ended up purchasing her property, a single VA buyer, and it worked out well for him. We were able to generate multiple offers, but it was challenging having tenants in the property for showings. So I'm just being upfront with you on some of the challenges and issues we're going to have, depending on how they respond to it. Our tenants who, and I'm speaking with Colette's tenants, they were great tenants up front, and then when and this was around Christmas too when we had their house listed, so they weren't too thrilled. Luckily, he had a job transfer, and he ended up moving out, I think it was to Hawaii. But he started getting a little bit more difficult in terms of showing. So That's one of the reasons why I asked if you have a property manager, because I didn't know if they were going to be the ones to give the written notice. Sometimes it's easier, if we reach out to her, whether it's the owner first reaches out to the tenants and has a conversation with them, or I've even made the call sometimes, but typically I always advise the owner to speak to them first, just to try to get their cooperation. One, we can ask them if they're interested in buying the property. Two, we can also speak to them and let them know that the more they work with us, the more we can try to give them as much time to find their next place, and work with them on that. So just a couple of things I want to throw out there with you as you think about next steps with this process, because if they're not cooperative, which we have to respect their tenant rights, but you also, you are on a month-to-month, which is good. And there is a way to get down to a 30-day notice, which most even property managers aren't aware of. So I wanted to share that with you as well. So if you haven't given them a written notice in writing, there's a notice of termination of tenancy. Even though we're on the month-to-month, it would still require the 60-day notice. However, if somebody purchases the property who intends to occupy the property, so not an investor who's going to rent it to somebody else, but somebody who actually is going to live in the property, there's a way you can give them a 30-day notice. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that as well. So just a few things that we had to do as we were speaking to the tenants for Colette's property, and I think in the last year I've had at least 3 different situations with tenants as well, and some are a little bit better than others. Others it's pretty stressful for them as they're trying to find their next place, because it's pretty competitive out there, in the rental market. So just wanted to share that. Any questions about that before getting into other details?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. So basically, just in terms of charges and costs and things like that, because you mentioned that, usually I like to discuss and get an idea of what it is that you're trying to accomplish first, and make sure that I'm basically that you want to hire me as your agent before we discuss that. But I'll just share with you what I did for Colette. Typically, we charge 6% commission, and 2.5% has to be offered to the selling office side. We normally get 3.5% on our side, but for Colette, being a close friend of ours, we did it for 5%. So that's 2.5% and 2.5% on the two.
Okay.
I actually pulled the net sheet up. We were able to sell it at $400,000, but we did give $10,000 in closing cost credit. The buyer needed closing cost help. They were a VA buyer. So the way that we structured it, because when we first listed it at $405, we weren't getting any activity, very little activity in comparison to what we should have had. And some of it was the timing of the market, but when a house is priced well, regardless of the seasonality of the market, you get the right amount of showings and activity. And we weren't getting it. So we eventually had to drop it down to, I believe it went down to $390 was the lowest we had to get it to. Once we got it to $390, we created a multiple offer situation. And then the VA buyer got very aggressive and went up to $400, but needed $10,000 in closing cost help. There was no issue appraising at $400,000. And if you look at all the sales of what's happened, within the last 6 months, since Colette's property sold, they're all selling right between about $390 and $400,000, at least the closed sales. There's a couple recently that have went pending at $405, but those were extremely updated. One was actually on the first level, so that one went out at $400,000. That was on the first level just recently, also extremely updated, but they did have a couple pets, so you can't tell from the pictures if you could smell dogs in the house or what, but it looked really nice, at least from the photos with the updates. From the pictures I saw the last time it was leased out, is that similar to what you expect it to look like right now? In terms
Yes.
of, so pretty original, right? With ceramic, tile, you didn't switch out or do granite or any stone countertops or change that out?
No.
Okay. And then it's the carpet. Have you seen it recently, or has it been a while since you've seen inside the property?
I haven't seen inside the property since those pictures were taken.
Okay. So hopefully it's still in pretty solid condition. I mean, it was less than 2 years ago, and it looked like, was the carpet replaced right before those tenants moved in?
Yeah, it was the day after that it was replaced that those photos were taken.
Okay, perfect. So that should be in pretty good shape, and it looks like you went with a good color that, it's not like an off-white that you have to be concerned about. So we definitely want to see what the property looks like in terms of condition. But basically, ballpark, in total cost between commissions, you have title and escrow, Then you also have NHD, which is a natural hazard disclosure. These are just typical disclosures that it's customary for the seller to cover. The total ballpark came out to about $25,116.50, and that also included an estimate for the HOA doc transfer fee. So the sellers have to pay for all the HOA documents. Again, there's a transfer fee as well as to prepare. It's the CCNRs and financials and all that good stuff. So there's fees for that. So roughly ballpark came out to roughly about $25,116.50 is what we had, and that was at a $395 estimate. That was her net sheet that was originally sent to her. So we figured $395 was going to be ballpark what it went out at. She ended up getting $390 is what she actually netted off of. So, which was great at the time because two others were sitting at $400,000 that took a long time before they went into escrow. One actually expired, never sold. So it's very important that we price it pretty much on the money in terms of where it needs to be at, and that's going to be based on the way that it looks when if you decide to list it when we go check it out, see what the condition looks like. Does that help you out just in terms of cost and expenses to expect?
Yeah, no,
okay.
That's great.
Okay. So just wanted to share that with you. I did have a few questions. Just to to get a better understanding. What are you thinking in terms of timing? What sounds realistic to you? And how much do you know about in terms of what's happening in the market right now? Have you been following it, kind of seeing it? Do you have any questions about that?
With limited knowledge and understanding, I've followed it and seen a little bit of fluctuation, not much. It seems like, particularly for that area, that it's been fairly steady. As far as timeline and whatnot, obviously I wanted to get some information first.
Right.
The tenant is military also.
Okay.
She had a 2-year lease that expired in July.
Okay.
Or excuse me, it actually expires July.
Okay.
So again, they were given the option of month to month. According to the property manager, that was something that they wanted to take care of, and assuming that for any reason anything changes, then it'll be unoccupied.
Right.
And if that is the case, then that's the route that I would certainly go. If they continue on month to month, we would obviously explore that conversation of 30 days and see what they wanted to do.
Right.
60, whatever the
notice
terms need to be.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
that from there.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. So, and then just in terms of selling the property, what are you ultimately trying to accomplish? Is it just to cash out, from the sale of the home? Is it is any other things? I just like to know in terms of what your expectations are for selling the home, as well as the agent that you look to potentially hire to help you with this process.
So primarily cash out.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm up in the Sacramento area. I've got family in this area, and under the circumstances that place sold, then I would start to look at buying. I'm currently renting up here. I've only been up here since April.
Okay.
But I've been out of the Ventura County area for some time with work, so I'm at the point where I'd like to get into a home, so maximizing what I can on that place.
Right.
As far as what I'm looking for is, obviously it's quite the trek from Southern California to Northern.
Right.
So minimizing, the need to do that would be phenomenal.
Okay. Yeah, and for the most part, I mean, it's I don't see where you're going to have to come out here. I'm helping out a guy who's trying to do for sale by owner. He's out in Europe right now. He lives in San Diego. His mother passed away, so he's the successor trustee, and that was also a big, just more than convenience factor than anything. It's just limiting having to drive back and forth. I live in Camarillo. I'm in central Camarillo, right off of. I'm not sure if you know where Dunnigan and Mobile is, right? Ponderosa, Arneal. There's a shopping center right across the way. So I'm in central Camarillo, very conveniently located in terms of where your condo is. And my wife Danielle is also a licensed real estate agent. We're actually going to have a baby on Monday. Due date is Monday, so Thank you. She's, pretty focused on that, so, I'm not going to ask of her too much. But I do have a couple people on my team. I manage a Century 21 Everest office in Wood Ranch. We do a high volume, I think 440 sales last year. So I oversee a lot, so I have a strong just understanding of not only how to protect you in the process, but knowing what's happening in the market, and you have to know on a daily basis. I mean, it's changing. It gets hot. It gets cold. It really got cold at the end of last year. We got worried for Colette. I thought the shift was already in place where it was going to hurt us quite a bit in terms of the sale. And so the timing worked out where she was able to cash out at the right time. Luckily, it heated up at the beginning part of this year, more so in the last 2-3 months. And the rates have been exceptional. So if you are thinking of purchasing, you definitely want to speak to somebody. And I have a guy who'd be more than happy to give you his info as well. He's not a pressure guy. He can help anybody in California too, but knowledgeable. He helped me buy my place. He helped, actually Colette went because she went with the jumbo loan, and not to get into too much personal stuff, but Wells Fargo gives exceptional rates if you're going to use a jumbo loan, which is a higher dollar amount. It's tough to beat them. Other than the jumbo loan rates, everybody else, I always recommend that they talk to Jason, at least to figure out the numbers, and he's very educated and can just share with you kind of what to expect with the current rates right now, what you're looking at, for purchasing power, especially once we have a rough idea of what you'll net from the sale of the home. And speaking of net, do you know ballpark what your payoff is currently?
I believe it is $325.
Okay, so about $325. So you paid it down pretty well then from when you purchased it, so that's good. So about $325. So what I'll do is I'll also get a net sheet for you tomorrow when escrow opens back up. I'm going to reach out to escrow, and then I'll see if they have the exact HOA doc and transfer fee charges from the last time. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the HOA company has also changed their property management recently as well. Did you see that? It's community property management. So they've gone through a couple different changes, and I remember we were trying to figure out like whether termite was covered by the HOA and just little details like that, and sometimes it takes a little bit for them to get back to you. So the good thing is, since we recently did it, we have everything on file still, knowing what to expect. It is VA approved, which is great for military. VA loans are awesome right now with no mortgage insurance, low interest rates. It's also FHA approved, so that opens it up. That gives us more potential buyers. Then it just comes to who can do the 3 flights of stairs. That's really it. It was the biggest thing. It's like, we love the unit. It's in great shape. And then some people prefer your layout. I believe yours is the 1161 model, which is exactly the same as Colette's. Is that correct?
Yeah, just flip it over.
Right? Okay, perfect. So, and people prefer that over the other one that's just a little bit smaller. It's only like 20 square feet smaller. And I remember the guy, the agent had the listing on the second level, and he had the 1140 model, and his was sitting for a while, and he kept getting interest, but they kept writing low on him. And then he came in, saw our place. He's like, "Yep, this is the better model." Like he also preferred it. His ended up selling. He got a lower dollar amount. I think he was in the 370s, I believe, is what he went out at. But it's just key to make sure that we show it off the right way, and it doesn't have to have all the glitz and glamour, but at the same time, people are pretty particular. Buyers are much more savvy right now in this market than they were back in the early 2000s, like 2004, before the first crash. Buyers now are really picky, and then when the HOA is at 380, that's another challenge that we have to overcome. They start seeing, okay, this is a pretty high HOA. They just start talking themselves out of it. So we just want to be very smart in terms of pricing, and it's going to be between 390 to 400. 405 would be at the highest, but I wouldn't recommend. A lot of times, sellers will want to start high and then try to work their way down. I don't recommend doing that. It's better to get to that sweet spot, that magic number first, and the quicker we get to that, then the buyers start jumping on it and start making offers. But depending on how the tenants are in terms of allowing us to show, we won't know until that all really works out. So just something to keep in mind. And, as we get closer to where it looks like you want to move forward with this, then, we can talk specifically about what you have in mind on pricing and go from there.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to check if there's any other questions. So I guess conditions, you said it's pretty similar to what it looked like before. The AC, do you know if that's working? Air conditioning?
Yeah, there was actually just a new compressor put in
Okay,
the AC,
nice.
new paint, new carpet, tile in the bathrooms, which was not run through the HOA, so that may potentially run into a problem depending on whether or not.
It should be okay. Yeah, you should be all right. It doesn't. It typically doesn't come up. They don't do. They normally don't do. I mean, any other issues or things that you can think of, just before. It's better to be aware of it ahead of time, so we know how to prepare against it. But so you said there was new tile that was put in the bathrooms that wasn't approved through them. Any other things that could be concerns?
No.
Okay. And I don't see that coming up. So it's not. They don't send out their own investigator, so to speak. I'm trying to think. The only times we'll reach out to them if for like termite. So termite should be covered. I'm trying to remember exactly if they covered. I believe it was just the exterior. If it's interior, that may be the owner's responsibility. And again, that's all negotiable. But if we do take a VA buyer, VA does require that Section 1 and Section 2 clearance takes place, and that just means that termite repairs have to be done. The seller has to pay for the termite report, which is typically about $75, but the repairs are negotiable. So if we can generate a multiple offer situation, then sometimes we can negotiate that out. And then also, if we know ahead of time kind of what the termite looks like, then we know whether it's a non-issue or not, because sometimes it's not even a big deal. It's free and clear when we do the inspection, and we want to know that ahead of time so we're not putting it together because we're over negotiating termites. And so just little things like that, to be proactive about.
Sure.
Okay. So 382 was the last I saw for Colette. Is that ballpark what you think it is right now? Is it 382 a month for the HOA?
Yeah.
Okay. Just trying to see if there's anything else. So, I mean, I guess just in speaking of price, do you have a price in mind that you were hoping to get?
Obviously just seeing what hers is. I haven't kept up too much since kind of just watching what happened with hers.
Okay.
But I would expect similar.
Okay. And that's realistic. Just being right around that 400 spot, you should be good. And then I mean, that's pretty much it. If you do have a copy of the lease, I can text you my email address just so that you have that. And then if you can send that over, it's just the more information I have on file, the better. That way I kind of know if I can look through the lease as well and see if there's anything that I need to be aware of. And then, I mean, what do you see as being the next step? Are you going to speak to the property management company and kind of feel them out and ask them some questions, or what do you see as being next?
Yeah, obviously I wanted to chat with you and then sit on that for a minute.
Okay.
As far as what's next, my expectation is that I will move forward in the very near future. What that stands for, I can't say, but
right.
I'm at the point where I'm ready to unload it. So let me chat with them and then go from there. I do have a copy of that, so I can also send that to you.
Perfect. And if you'd like, I can send you the paperwork just so that you can see what that all looks like. If you have any questions, the only additional thing that's not included in the commission is a processing fee, which is $3.95. That's a closing cost, only paid after you successfully get the terms that you're looking for. And what it does is it digitally stores all of your paperwork for 5 years. You get a USB file with everything. We keep everything in case you lose that file. So if you need things, which you will for tax purposes, the closing statement, things like that, you can reach out to me, within the 5 years after the closing, and we send that to you. So that's
Great.
the only other thing that's in the paperwork. And then if you have any questions, you can let me know. One option, something to kind of keep in mind is it's called the SELM, and that's the seller excludes from the MLS. You want to put this on the MLS, and we want to get full exposure. First of all, I want to be clear about that. But secondly, if you want me to start marketing the property without us having to set up showings, but just start kind of getting the word out there, I can do even a coming soon. Little things like that. We need what's called a SELM filled out, and what that does is that gives me the ability to market it without it being on the MLS. So if you're thinking like, okay, this may be a month out or a few weeks out, but you want me to start kind of getting the word out, let me know. And I'm going to send you that form just so you have it, and I can explain in a little bit more details. But sometimes that's helped me find the right buyer even before it actually hits the market. So just things to keep in mind there.
Great. Appreciate that.
All right. I think that's it in terms of the questions I have. And if it's okay, and let me make sure I have the right email. I have Derek Johnson 07 @gmail.com.
Correct.
Okay. Is it okay if I just shoot you an email? I'll send you the paperwork, and then if you have any questions, and if it starts getting to where you're thinking like in the next week or a couple weeks that you want to start moving forward with this, just let me know so I can start arranging. We get our professional photographer out there. If I need to send my cleaning crew through there, I want to do that, before the photos. Just little things like that so I can coordinate that.
Great. Yeah, and I'll connect with property management and see where we're at with that.
Definitely. And do you still have Colette's phone number?
Yeah, unless you changed it.
Okay. No, it should still be the same. So definitely feel free to reach out to her. If you'd like any other references, I'd be happy to share that with you as well. And I'll send you a list just of some other clients that have worked for me, as well as just past sales and reviews. So if you've seen the Zillow profile, there's you can see some of the production we've done over the last few years.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time and the help.
Yeah.
And then I'll look forward to that. And it's okay. Is that the email you want me to respond to with the lease?
Yes, that'd be great. The RameyHomes@gmail.com, and I'll text that over to you.
Great. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for your time, Derek. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Okay.
Congratulations again.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.